Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and in today's video we are revisiting once again the Note Max magnetic keyboard folio, right? So that's this edition, and I've covered that in the last video and I've expressed my concerns regarding the this accessory for the Note Max. And since then, there were comments mainly kind of in line with my own concerns, but there were also some comments that warranted like a valid type of question, like, is this really a big deal or not? So I wanted to address some of the things that popped up as comments regarding this thing, and also perform a test to verify if my original concerns are justified or not. All right, so here is the keyboard cover in question. And also some of the discussions that I've read warrant like an extra bit of caution, because there is this tendency to simply dismiss it as if this is like any other cover from a laptop or an iPad or something like that. And that's simply not the case. I may be proven completely wrong because I genuinely haven't done this experiment that I'm going to do here now in front of the camera with you guys for the very first time, because I wanted to test something out and to test my gut feeling. Majority of people who kind of disregarded the warning from the original video said like, well, it doesn't matter, I don't care if my keys are pressing on the surface of the screen or if this is pressing on the surface of the screen. I have the same thing on my iPad or something like that, and it doesn't make any difference. Well, there are key bits of important differences here. The glass that is used on an iPad device is significantly thicker, harder, and of a different quality than the glass that is used on this device. This is much thinner glass. It actually has give. It's more flexible, which is a good thing. In this case, when it's a little bit more flexible, that's a good thing for impact stuff. But mainly it's like that so that you can have a nice writing feel. The second thing to kind of keep in mind is also that e-ink screens are much more brittle and fragile than OLED screens or LCD screens. So what might not damage OLED or LCD screen can easily damage an e-ink screen because it's far more fragile. The second part that also doesn't really fit is basically the fact that your iPad screen or your laptop screen is perfectly smooth. If the tops of the keyboard keys are actually in contact with the screen, that means that the friction force between the keyboard tops and the screen is going to be dramatically lower than what you have in this case, because this screen is not smooth. This screen has that paper-like type of surface, and that is basically effectively a type of a sandpaper. Now, I don't know the specifications of which material between these two is harder, but the Physics 101 says if you have this happening for an extended period of time where none of the surfaces are perfectly smooth, and they are not, because this is not perfectly smooth and this is not perfectly smooth, that means that the harder of these two materials is going to cause abrasions and wear over the softer materials. Now, whether or not that's going to be in this case that the keyboard caps are wearing out the screen, if the keyboard caps are harder than the screen, then that's what's going to happen. If the screen material, the abrasive screen part of the screen material is harder than the keys, then that is going to rub away against the keyboard tops. These friction forces are going to be significantly lower on a perfectly smooth surface of an iPad or a touch laptop or something like that. The additional aspect of why this same type of problem will be minimized on different solutions is because those different solutions normally, and in an overwhelming majority of situations, employ one of two regular techniques or a variation of both to actually minimize this type of risk and potential material fatigue. You can actually see it here. This is on my Lenovo Tab P11 Pro that has a keyboard, and yes, it goes directly onto the screen. However, the keyboard part has these 4 rubber, very small, but they are there to elevate the contact of this one. So basically what makes contact with the screen are these soft rubber pads. And even though they are in contact and you can have some small kind of wiggle here, the thing is that I have to exert way more force to make this thing start to wiggle around. And the only reason why it's wiggling around even at all is because I have this screen protector applied here. If this was off and I had the perfectly smooth glass that this was designed to work with, the perfectly smooth glass and the rubber, they're going to stick way more, and then this kind of offsetting is going to be even more minimized. So that kind of aspect of grinding doesn't really happen to anything other than the rubber and the screen, and the rubber is absolutely softer than either this screen protector or the glass of the screen. So the only thing that's going to wear out over time are these rubber pads. The other approach, which is far more common, and I'm just going to use my ancient PowerBook laptop here because it illustrates the issue in the solution in a good way, and you can actually see how this is done. For this, I'm going to try and kind of zoom in and show you what we have here. So first of all, the surface of the screen is not perfectly flat, and all around the screen we have the bezel, which is taller than the screen. And on some models where the body of the cover of the screen is plastic, then this is kind of left to be plastic and is slightly, just ever so slightly taller than the screen, and that elevated thing is now making, or the frame of the screen is making the contact with the body of the device, which is plastic on plastic, and plus you have hinges so you don't have the tilting problem. But Mac, being a high-class type of a thing, they employed a rubber that goes all the way around the entirety of the screen, and the only thing that actually makes the connection or the contact with the body of the screen of the device here is that rubber that you can see here. The rubber frame of the screen makes contact with the aluminum of the body, and that's that. And this is an example of a really nicely designed type of a solution that just will ensure that your screen remains intact and unscratched over a long period of time. It's not utilized everywhere. That's why mostly it's going to be plastic of some sort or something like that. But some type of separation between the surface where the screen will lie on and the screen itself is always employed. Either a frame introducing a little bit of a distance, or rubber padding, or in this case, both. So, having seen all that, let's re-examine what we have with the Note Max and the magnetic keyboard here. Well, one of the positives that I really like about the design of the Note Max is the fact that there is absolutely no separation or height difference between the edge of the device and the screen surface of the device. Unlike what it was on the Tab Ultra and the Tab Ultra C, that was one thing that I really didn't like, but that's now no longer the case. However, if you actually put that into context of this design, where you have a keyboard that has no separation, has no frame, has no dampening, has no nothing, then it actually becomes a problem. And on the Tab Ultra C, that flaw that was there, that was basically allowing the metal frame to be ever so slightly higher than the screen, and it made it uncomfortable, that also meant that the keyboard cover that the Tab Ultra C had, even if it had the same exact design, it wouldn't make direct contact with the screen. It would actually make direct contact with the metal frame of the device. That is not the case here. We have no dampening here at all, no frame differentiation between the height of the frame or the screen. Therefore, when this falls down onto the screen, it's always going to make direct contact with the screen. And to make things worse, because this is a 13.3-inch device and it's so much larger, and they're employing no hinge system, no nothing here, just the faux leather bend here, the give and the play area for the tilting and the grinding against the screen is much, much higher than what we would physically be able to have on the Tab Ultra C or the Tab Ultra C Pro. So that kind of grinding thing only increases even further with this design, and that's an additional element that's contributing to the problem. And while all of these issues are valid concerns, I don't believe that any one of these would actually cause the screen to break over time, because this is a large surface and it distributes the force over a large point of surface. So as long as you don't have a small type of a harder impact point that's directly impacting the screen over and over again at the roughly same point of the screen, you're going to be fine, because whatever the force of impact here may be, and it's around 0.72 joules, if it's distributed over a large surface like this, then it's not a problem, right? Well, yes, that's true, but that's also not entirely the case with this cover, because unfortunately we do have exactly that case with two little protruding holding points that are there to hold the device in place. So they've employed these little plastic peaks, let's call them protrusions, that are basically wider plastic, hard plastic spikes. And they will roughly impact the screen over and over again. And what I want to test out today in this video is, do these two plastic whatever protrusions make direct contact with the screen, and are they making the most contact with the screen when compared with the rest of the cover itself? If the test shows confidently that these two are making a strong or meaningful impact with the screen, then I would not dare to use this one. If they don't, then I think it's going to be fine, because over time the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to basically smooth out the writing surface of the screen, or the screen is going to kind of rub away the keys and things over here, but nothing's gonna break completely. In order to do that, I'm gonna do a really simple old school type of test. I'm gonna use a blank piece of A4 printing paper. I'm gonna put it roughly around here. And I'm going to use, well, only the old school people here will remember what this is, but this is a graphite paper, or the blue paper, or the copy paper. Basically, it has a graphite surface on the other side, and when you make impact on it, or when you exert pressure on top of it, it will reflect or leave the residue on the surface below. So basically what we have here is as old school type of a thing for testing as it goes. And I intentionally did this because, yes, there are like super impact film foils and things like that that cost like a gazillion, billion, million dollars. And I'm not gonna invest that much for this kind of simple test. And the second part is that this is not super sensitive. So this, if I get to have some imprints, meaningful imprints on this, then I know that the forces exerted on the screen are too much or higher than what I am comfortable with. So that's the reasoning behind the test. And the test is going to be several types. So the first one is going to be, I'm gonna flip the cover and I'm gonna let it fall from around kind of this position, which is normally if I would close it, and I'm gonna close it 50 times. And then I'm going to see what happens, and if we get some impacts on or imprints on on the paper underneath. Then I'm going to use another piece of paper and see what happens when you have the contact with the screen, but you kind of scrub it around. So I'm going to scrub around in one direction, then in another direction, and see what we get. And the final test is going to be the whole thing just closed with some added weight on top, just lying around and moving just a little bit and exerting a little bit more pressure here and there unevenly to try and simulate what would happen if it's normally in your backpack or something like that, because it's going to move around, it's going to exert a little bit pressure here, a little bit pressure there, etc., etc. So those are the 3 tests that I'm going to be doing now, and yeah, I'm genuinely interested to see what the results are going to be. So let's start with the impact force first. And actually, before I begin the test, I did one modification. That is, I used the Scotch tape to just affix this really carefully, so exerted like no pressure at all, as much as I could on here and here, so that I can affix it to the device so that it holds kind of roughly at the same place when I open up and move these things around. So yeah, let's start. Okay, I've done 20. I'm not gonna do 50 because this hurts me to do. Okay, so this is the imprint of the impact test, and I originally planned to do 20 or 50, but I ended up doing only 20 of them because it just felt too painful to do that to my own device. But it still has proved to be enough of a red flag to never want to use this magnetic cover on my device, and that is these 2 blue impact points here. These are from these 2. So these guys are continuously making the first impact with the screen, and that is a big problem, because if it was just a genuine area, then you don't have a problem. You distribute the force, everything's fine. When you have the impact energy focused on a small, hard, and relatively sharp type of a surface, then that's a whole different story. And this is exactly what we are seeing here. So from repeated closing action, just something that you will normally have to do on a day-to-day basis, you are exerting way too much pressure and impact force on your screen, the way that it should not be the case. All right, for the second test, I'm gonna take a brand new piece of paper and brand new piece of graphite paper as well. I should have enough, because I don't want anything that was kind of leaving residues from the previous test or something like that to give me false readings or something like that. This way everything is as equal as I can make it. So let's try and affix that carefully to the device. All right, so for the friction test, I'm using a bit more Scotch tapes just to make sure that this stays in place as much as possible and that it doesn't kind of start sliding around, and that the main sliding around is this on top of that. So we got 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2 here. I don't have any at the bottom because that would introduce bending, and that would introduce maybe false type of readings, but I think that this should be enough. So I'm going to very carefully close it because I don't want to add additional pressure there. And now I'm just going to hold it like this and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I'm going to do with different forces. So I'm going to just press like around here as much as I can, and then try to rub it around this way. I'm not putting too much pressure here, just enough to start it moving around, and then a little bit like here, a little bit like there, maybe a little bit in the middle to see if the cover bends and if the keys themselves make contact. So just trying to simulate what's going to be going on with this thing. All right, I think that that's enough. So let's open it up and carefully see what do we have when I uncover the tape. All right, so I'm about to get the last one unstuck here, and I should be able to lift and see what we get. I want to have it genuinely that we see. Oh, oh wow. Okay, that's that is actually very worrying. I'm starting to become uncomfortable with continuing the tests. Honestly, I expected just faint marks from those two prongs, not these huge hotspots. The results of the second test make it even more plain, and this was the one with the cover closed carefully and then just with mild pressure simply rubbing the tilting action that we have, which is, you know, the problem. And this test reveals two things. No, the keys of the keyboard, they are well designed. They do not make a direct contact with the screen, so that is all good. What I would have expected is a unified type of shading that we will have like you have here with no hotspots. But unfortunately, we have two really, really enormous hotspots, and those are again those two plastic peaks or points that we have, and that is further confirming that there's a severe design problem here. All right, and a fresh piece of paper and a fresh piece of carbon paper as well, so that we can have the weight test. So that's going to be the last one, is going to be just pressing some weight. So let's fix this in the same way as before. All right, so I have it. There's a couple of issues that are going to be present with this test. The first one is that this piece of paper is, or the graphite paper, is already having a small bend here. So this may either close this way or the other way. We'll see. I'm just not going to add any pressure on it because I don't want to put that. But the other part is that I didn't really align it to the edge, so I won't get the reading of the edge itself. But that doesn't really matter that much because the stuff that I'm interested in is actually on the screen, and that we do have a firm contact with. So I'm just going to try and maybe somehow kind of close this without bending. Well, it's going to close the way it closes anyway. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some devices on top of it. And I'm just going to put like, two Remarkable Paper Pros on it. The Lenovo that I have here. Well, if I add this, that's going to be too much. And about this much of Remarkable 2s. So we have that type of weight here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just not slide it around. That's my idea, is to try and avoid the sliding around as much as I can while I exert different areas of pressure, trying to simulate basically what's going to happen if it's in a bag and then you kind of set the bag down and there's something pressing against the device, and then you just kind of have kind of impact type of forces against, you know, cushioning things. So it's not super focused and it should be distributed. And I know that I'm shaking the camera now because, okay, so it's like that, and maybe a little bit of kind of wiggling around. I don't think that this shouldn't leave any mark. In my view, maybe just the frame, but now with those prongs, I don't really know. So it's going to be genuinely interesting to see what happens, because the results are already way different than what I expected. So I guess we're done. Okay, and these go away. So now I'm gonna very, very carefully lift this. Okay, cool. This didn't, the crease didn't really bend backwards, so that's good. I'm gonna take the tape carefully without touching the screen at all. All right, so I just started the last one, and genuinely I want us all to see the results at the same time. So let's just hold the paper down. Come on, come on, let go of the paper. No, don't tear the paper. God damn it. Okay, so that sucks. And the last one. And lastly, this is the imprint result from the last test, which was simply having a carefully closed lid and some weight put on top of it and just shifting the weight around. My genuine expectation was that with this type of test, we shouldn't get anything, like nothing at all, maybe just a few smidges here and there. But unfortunately, the smidges that do appear are, again, the first contact with the screen, whenever you're in a closed state, are those two plastic prongs, and that's alarming. And even though it is painfully obvious that those are indeed responsible for that type of action, I just wanted to kind of align it and see that, yep, so when you put it like this, that's exactly what we're going to get, and these are the ones that are making those strongest imprints in all three of the tests. So there you go. This and this is the main problem of the magnetic keyboard flip cover case for Note Max. And as far as I'm concerned, especially after this test, I basically am confirming my initial doubts and fears, and unfortunately it's far worse than I expected. I thought that it would be just a bit, and maybe that these are kind of lower than the surface of the screen, and then or the surface of the keyboard here, then that they don't make an impact. It's actually the other way around, and they make the strongest impact time and time again in all the situations. And just to make things even a little bit worse, there's quite a bit of flex in this keyboard, which means that in certain situations, depending on how the weight is distributed, these can make even more of an impact on the screen itself. Were it not for these two, I think that this would be safe to use perfectly fine. But these two with these results, no, that's a firm no-go from me. I hope that you found the video informative and or useful. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on My Deep Guide. Also, please do remember to go to mydeepguide.com/shop and check out the MDO, or My Daily Organizer, is your one-stop organizer PDF workbook that is for all of your yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily organizing personal or professional needs. And the MMP is My Deep Guide Meeting Planner, which is there to simplify, centralize, and organize all of your meeting planning needs. You can find more details about both of these products in the description below if you're interested to check them out more. But know that purchasing of these products directly helps support independence of My Deep Guide and the ability to test these things out in a fully independent fashion, like I've been doing on this one, to bring results like this to the light. Please let me know in the description down below if you think that these findings are worrying or not. So for me, as I already said, when I saw this happening, that is an absolute no-go for this type of an accessory, because that is simply not the type of risk that I'm willing to expose my device on a daily basis. Have you expected these types of results? Have you expected more, less, or something like that? It's going to be interesting to hear from you guys in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!